listener production.
The creators of this podcast would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which it is recorded. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are the first storytellers of this land. We pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, as well as any Indigenous people who may be listening today.
The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA for mature audiences. It may contain sexual references, time travel references, allegations of bin misconduct, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that this episode is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15 or anyone who thinks a comedy conversation between two old mates sounds like a terrible idea for a show. Minors must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. This is John Deek speaking.
Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello and thank you for watching. This is a comedy podcast that proves that two heads are better than one, brackets, at coming up with terrible jokes, close brackets.
Thank you, Will, for reminding everyone of the tagline for the show created by AI. Go back to last week's episode to check that out.
It's amazing that I remembered that for an entire week.
Amazing. Some would say a miracle. And that miracle is, of course, because Will and I are doing these episodes back to back. So a week for you, the next day for us. We thought the mailbag has been building up because we were away for so long.
For us, it's 5 minutes later.
Did I say the next day? Oh, yeah, sorry. We live in time moves differently for us. The theory of relativity affects both of us different ways. Time moves a lot faster for me than you will. I'm like a dog in that way.
Yeah.
Like I know that I look 45, but I'm actually 90 years old.
Oh, well.
We thought we'd just get through the mailbag because there's been such a backlog of stuff, and I'm feeling a bit guilty because some of these things, they're not necessarily, topical or time dependent. But this one in particular this is from Tom. He wants to know about the Star Wars holiday special. Greetings, gentlemen. I live with my brother-in-law and sister. The brother-in-law is a Christmas fanatic and demands that we watch numerous Christmas movies throughout November and December. Do you know
that's
anyone like that?
That's a weird way to put it, by the way.
Christmas fanatic.
That he lives with his brother-in-law and his sister. Normally you would say I live with my sister and my brother-in-law, but he's gone with the brother-in-law first. I guess because he's about to dob in the brother-in-law as being the person who's obsessed with Christmas movies. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. He's the topic of the email. You don't strike me as particularly like Christmassy kind of person. You don't like.
I'm not a Christmassy person. I was when I was young.
Really?
I quite liked
I had
being
a kid.
Yeah. But no, I'm not a big Christmas person, but I don't mind the pageantry of Christmas. I quite like all pageantry. I like when things are an event and people get into the spirit of something. To the point where I was walking through the airport the other day in Sydney, and in Sydney they had an Australian Open booth. So I guess the idea is that if you were flying from Sydney to Melbourne for the Australian Open tennis, that you might, instead of waiting until you got to Melbourne to buy your merchandise, that you might like grab it at Sydney Airport and actually take it down with them, I guess was the idea. But I was so caught up in the idea that the tennis was on and that there was this booth there that I actually looked through it and I was like, maybe I'll buy some like Australian Open merchandise. I did not, but I did consider it for a moment. I got swept up in the majestic nature of the experience.
I guess the closest equivalent I can think of is similar to yours, but it's probably grand final week. Like as the grand final gets closer, I get very into my footy and I like, watching as many videos as I can and maybe old games, go to the AFL.com and check out all that kind of stuff. I'm consuming as much AFL as I can in that week leading up to the grand final. But I also hate that kind of cliche debate about is Die Hard a Christmas film? Like every fucking year that they just trot out that old trope and like, who cares? It's not funny. I think it was funny the first time that person made the observation, hey, it's a Christmas movie. But now it's become this kind of like fucking Michael Scott tired old joke. That's what she said. Who gives a fuck? It is or it isn't. It's a film set at Christmas. It's Schrodinger's Die Hard. That's what I say.
It is weird, isn't it? Because like, is Home Alone a Christmas movie because it happens at Christmas?
Yes.
So then Die Hard is a Christmas movie, I guess.
But
like,
cares?
who cares? It doesn't matter. It's a movie.
Lethal
that
Weapon
exists.
takes place at Christmas as well.
Christmas movie then, I guess.
Who gives a fuck? Anyway, so last week, my brother-in-law...
Is the movie Halloween a Halloween movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What are you talking about?
Or is it just a movie that happens to take place at Halloween?
It's both. What are you talking about?
Oh, right. So you're fine with this being both, but Die Hard, it doesn't fucking matter, apparently.
No. Oh, okay. No, I have no... Look, fucking it's a horror movie that takes place at Halloween. It is also a movie about Halloween.
Yeah.
Is it a documentary on the origins of Halloween? No, it's not. But you idiots, it's not funny. Like, it was funny when someone made the observation 15 years ago. Now it's just fucking annoying. And the fact that, like...
I'm going to start the Halloween isn't a Halloween movie movement. I'm going to be like, it's not. It's just, you know what? It's just a slasher film that happens to be set at Halloween. But there is never actually any explanation of the fact that, other than that's when it originally happened, there is no connection to Halloween itself, is there? Like, Michael Myers,
he gets his mask.
Michael Myers doesn't like look forward to Halloween every year and just go, "That's my time to kill."
Well, no, he does. That's kind of the whole thing. So
I know, but there's never a bit in the movie where it's like, it's Halloween, it's time for me to kill. It's more about, this is the anniversary of when this original murder took place, right?
Yeah, but
he's never inspired. No, it just happened to happen at Halloween. Very much like Die Hard happened to happen. Like,
I don't know that that's true. I think that Michael Myers was biding his time. So, like, the prologue is, 8-year-old Michael Myers murders his sister and her boyfriend, or maybe just his sister, and then you jump forward to present day. Jamie Lee Curtis is a high school student, and Mike Myers busts out of prison. I think that is the triggering point. I think Michael Myers, I've got to make that distinction.
He, as a serial killer, he is groovy, baby.
Michael Myers was sitting in a mental institution staring at a wall for 17 years. And then Halloween comes around, and like the Manchurian candidate, he is the Halloween candidate.
There's never any moment in any of the Halloween films where Michael Myers seems to be triggered by something that is Halloween related. I feel like that's a false reading of the, like, he is triggered by the fact so if he had happened to murder like his sister on Christmas Day, for example, like, then he would be doing it on the anniversary, which would be Christmas. But it isn't actually Christmas itself that triggered the murder in the first place. And I would argue with the Halloween films, there is never in the mythology of the Halloween films any indication that it was the fact that it was Halloween that led to the murder.
I think there is, in the later, like the terrible films, I seem to think there is some, well, even in the kind of reboots, the new ones that they've done, there is some kind of, I haven't seen the latest one, but some kind of assertion that he's supernatural, that there might be some kind of spirit inhabiting him. So maybe it is like the evil spirit of Halloween.
It has nothing to do with Halloween. No.
You don't know that?
No, I do know that because I have watched all the Halloween films, and not once in them is he ever is there ever a moment where Michael
Halloween.
Myers,
he wakes up with a spring in his step. Can't wait to grab his butcher's knife.
Well, there's never a moment, even in like the reboots and stuff, like he might get triggered by seeing his mask, for example.
Yeah.
That might be the thing that triggers him to like have those memories and
point.
try to escape. But there's never actually a moment in them where he like sees a carved out pumpkin and then suddenly goes from like Mike Myers walking around to Michael Myers wanting to stab people.
I'm going to type in, does Michael Myers kill because it's Halloween? Because it's Halloween?
He doesn't. He just happens to kill on Halloween.
On Halloween.
Yeah.
It's, what do they say? It's coincidence, not cause, or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. So it's correlation, not causation.
Correlation, not causation. That's right.
That's going to be my argument. Halloween is not a Halloween movie. It is correlation. The murders just happen to happen at Halloween, and therefore happen on the anniversary of those murders every year, which coincidentally, of course, happens to be Halloween because Halloween happens at the same time every year. But it is actually completely unrelated to the event that is Halloween.
I found an article. on the Mary Sue, which is a genre website. Here's why Halloween's Michael Myers kills in every timeline. So they have broken down all the different Halloween films. Okay, so cue the Halloween theme in whatever version you love the most. Michael has entered the room and is giving me the details about his reasons for killing in every timeline. Is this hang on? Wait a minute, is this true? What's going on?
We sat down with Michael Myers and asked him a series of questions.
BuzzFeed listicle. Yeah. Yes, I said in every timeline, because if you're not a fan of the franchise, you need to know there are many timelines.
5.
Maybe it's
5
maybe
different timelines.
A bit extra to give you all the details, but I'm not holding back. Before I get into explaining Michael Myers' motivations, and here's a graphic. So, okay, yes, you're right. 5 timelines. There's 3 timelines branching off the first film, and then there's 2 separate timelines, which I guess would be the Rob Zombie attempts. Okay, here we go. So the sequel timeline: movies, Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers. Would have been so much better if Michael's motivations had never been fully revealed. Unfortunately, the original timeline introduces the most horrible story arc known as the Cult of Thorn. Are you aware of this, Will?
Yeah. So the Cult of Thorn was some mystical organization that were getting Michael to kill on behalf of them or something.
Basically, Michael killed his sister Judith because of a curse that was placed on him. A weirdo doctor thought it would be chill to cast this curse, even though it results in death and chaos over a long period of time. So Michael serves as a killing machine to keep the cult thriving. Right.
So unrelated to Halloween.
Unrelated to Halloween. Okay. Second timeline, H2O, which involves Halloween, the original, Halloween 2, and Halloween H2O, and then Resurrection. To breath of fresh air to get the hell away from the Cult of Thorn. No shade if that's your jam. But what makes the H2O timeline great is that Michael wants to kill Laurie specifically because she has completion anxiety, thanks to Nika Pierce for coining that term. Laurie gets away from him and keeps getting away from him. Everyone else, including dogs who dies, including dogs, are simply in the way or convenient. Michael is just a regular
nothing to do with Halloween.
Yep.
Absolutely to do with the fact that he needs to kill Jamie Lee Curtis, who in this timeline is not his sister. I think in the other one, they tried to say that she was. In one of them, she's the sister.
They are including Halloween 2, which revealed that she's the sister.
Yes.
Okay, then there's the reboot timeline, which is the Rob Zombie ones. Okay, imagine a stereotypical serial killer, explaining who they are. Either it's someone's mum is to blame, or the killer had an abusive, dysfunctional childhood, or they were subjected to a bullying. Rob Zombie directs the 2 movies in his timeline, and his version of Michael is typical, even though the whole point of a remake is to switch things up. This timeline gives us a glimpse into Michael's childhood. Okay, so it's his childhood trauma. That's what makes him kill in this one.
Again, the childhood trauma does not have anything to do with Halloween.
Okay, so the new Halloween film.
Yes.
So Halloween kills, Halloween ends. Michael just wants to go home. For now, that's the major motivation. You're right, Will.
Halloween is not a Halloween movie. That's my new Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Well, you're not on social media. Can I take that and put it out there and just see how many angry fucking nerds get into my mentions?
I mean, it checks out though, right? Like
it
Halloween,
does check out.
Not a movie about Halloween at all. It's just a movie that takes place at Halloween.
That's fucking amazing. Back to Oliver's letter. Oh, sorry, Tom's letter.
Sorry.
Last week, he wrote me into watching a viewing session by letting me choose a Christmas movie, and I decided to put on a shitty one because I'm good like that. After quick Googling, I stumbled across an interesting-sounding film, the Star Wars Holiday Special. I'd never heard of it before, despite it having all the main cast members from A New Hope. Fair to say my interest was piqued. In short, the film was so bad that it's never been rebroadcast. We had to go on YouTube to watch a bootleg version. It's one of the best, worst 2 hours of my life. Have you guys heard of this before, and have you seen it? Will, you can go first.
Heard of it, haven't seen it in total. I've seen bits of it that have been repurposed or repackaged in other things when people have pointed out how terrible it was, but I've never seen the whole thing.
This is going to show how old I am, but prior to the internet, Will, this was one of those bootleg DVDs or even VHSs that you could find at a comic book store. Like, they'd had it behind the counter. And I had a mate who had bought a copy and we used to watch it in the 90s. And it's true. Like I think George Lucas hadn't maybe negotiated his final kind of like terms. And so they were, the studio were just trying to milk it for every cent they could. And so they made this horrible special, and it's shot on video. It's got that 70s TV look to it. It's all these huge stars, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford, basically doing like a multi-camera sitcom. And it's about, I think it's not Earth Day, it's like Love Day or whatever the galactic version of Christmas is. And it has these weird kind of variety shows, interstitials, where like, you know, Gladys Knight will come out and sing a song, and you get to meet Chewbacca's family, and like there's a Wookie with boobs and a baby. It's fucking bizarre. It's awful, but it's good fun to watch. And I think it's become sort of synonymous with like the Star Wars Christmas special, bad, cheap tie-in TV.
Yeah, it's one of those things that was an early indication for those people who, because the Star Wars like fan base and mythology has always been one of those things that has been interesting to me, because Star Wars has always been mostly silly. It's kind of Empire Strikes Back that makes it seem like this really kind of credible, interesting, you know, well thought out universe, but it's always been about selling toys. And it's always been about dumb cash-ins. And if you look at, you know, Return of the Jedi and the Star Wars Christmas special, you get a much truer indication of what Star Wars was going to become about as well, which is the idea that it would just be relentlessly cashed in on every level.
Well, it's also the I guess what we've discovered now in this era of reboots and spin-offs is that the universe of Star Wars, which prior to the kind of prequels seemed so rich, you know, Games of Thrones, Lord of the Rings in the sense that, you know, there's all this kind of fan fiction and stuff. And what we've come to realize is maybe that universe isn't as rich or as interesting as it was in our heads, because we've seen it in practice. They've made a dozen, you know, TV spin-offs. They've taken characters that we loved in the original series and just made them really boring by digging into their past or seeing what happened to them in the intervening years, or how they got their name, or why they're fucking diced in their spaceship and stuff. And so I think that's what we've realized, is that I remember when the prequels were coming out, and I wasn't like a huge Star Wars fan, but I got caught up in the hype. I was like, yeah, it's exciting, and Jedis are like the fucking Zen masters of the universe and stuff. And then when you sort of see it in action, you're like, this is fucking stupid. Like, this is all just dumb and stupid, and I was a dumb kid for liking this.
Well, you're a kid. They're kids' movies that are made for kids. But I would like to see more of this, you know, Christmas special. This is what I'd like them to re-embrace. So obviously when they're going back to all the original IP, the things that they've explored have been the other aspects of the Star Wars universe, but they haven't really tried to do another version of this. So
yeah, they should.
That's what I want to see. I want to see, like, what sort of director? Who's the director who comes in and says, like, you know,
is it tongue in cheek or is it like earnest? Because Taika Waititi is an obvious one. He does kind of, you know, he's got that Kiwi sense of humor,
and I'm sure he's got heaps of spare time on his plate. Doesn't seem to be overcommitted in any way. So let's put another project on. But you're right. It has that Taika Waititi feel. So it's got to be somebody like a Taika who is willing to go in and do it like tongue in cheek. Or was the original one tongue in cheek, or was it just daggy?
No, I think it's quite earnest.
Yeah, it was earnest. So what you really need is somebody who, like, is there somebody who would treat it like earnestly? What about like what about Baz Luhrmann? What if Baz Luhrmann came in and did like a, you know, like,
I could see that because the variety aspect of it. Like, it is like the singing and dancing and all that kind of stuff. Or
he kind of does like a Moulin Rouge, you know, Elvis-y, Star Wars-y, you know, I could see him making that work.
I think that you're actually talking me around to that's something that I'd like to see, because I think part of the issue with Disney and, you know, this sort of like homogenization of all these properties that they've bought, like Star Wars and Marvel and whatever, is that they've all sort of been funneled out this very narrow kind of, you know, corporately controlled creative brief where they are getting, you know, names in and stuff, but they're all sort of saying these are the guidelines by which you need to make these movies. Whereas DC, for all their flaws, have basically gone to like a Todd Phillips or a Matt Reeves or whatever and gone, hey, just fucking take this property and make whatever you want with it. If Disney started doing that, hey, yeah, Baz, we want you to do remake the Star Wars Holidays. Life Day, that's what it was. It's all about Life Day. 2 hours. We're going to do it live.
Yeah, live. That's right. Good. Yeah. Life Day, live.
Live.
A Baz Luhrmann experience. And like, you know, Dolly Parton singing Islands in the Stream with Baby Yoda. That's what I want to say.
She's got antennas on, though. Like, she's like an alien. She's Dolly Parsec from Planet Zorf.
Oh, no. She's the Wookie with boobs from the original. So they Wookie her up.
The hairy boobed Wookie. But that sounds awesome. Like tell me that, free to air is dying, but if there was going to be a 2-hour variety show, in fact, I've been watching that George Carlin documentary on HBO, and they'll sort of, it's such a fascinating, have you seen it yet?
Yes.
I thought it was fascinating.
It's really
and just the way he kind of reinvented himself like 4 or 5 times. Starts off as this kind of like suit and tie comic, and then he's the hippy dippy weatherman, then he's the counterculture pot smoking rebel rouser. But then there's this sort of moment sort of in the late 70s to the early 80s where he's on the wane again, and he's like, I'm just going to do variety shows because, yeah, sure, it's not the coolest thing to do, but it means I can keep doing live shows. It books dates. And you're watching these clips and it's like, oh my God, this feels like, I know it's only 40, 50 years ago, but it feels like it's a just completely different timeline and these were rating, 20, maybe 60 million viewers? Like, we're watching these weekend shows. Like, I wonder, you couldn't bring variety show back, could you? I guess that's what awards shows are. That's the closest we have is the Oscars and the Golden Globes. But the idea there'd be a weekly variety show.
But they are doing all these like live, so there's like Aladdin live or like Beauty and the Beast
Dirty
live
Dancing,
or whatever. So they do these as live experiences. So the world already exists. Like, there are actors and performers who are already in this world of, we are doing these things live, and there seems to be an appetite for doing these things live. So if you went to a network and you said, look, we've got Baz Luhrmann attached, he's going to direct the whole thing, and we're going to restage. Like Disney, well, I mean, they're all on Disney Plus, right? So Disney just says, because I think Disney did like a lot. They've done big live events already on Disney, so they've got the capacity to do it. They say, we're going to redo that. We're going to restage the Star Wars Christmas special. Baz Luhrmann's going to direct it, and we're going to go out live. I think people would watch that. I would watch that.
How do you get Baz interested though? Like, what's gonna capture you? He doesn't strike me as a Star Wars kind of guy.
I know, but that's kind of the appeal of it. This isn't your...
Yeah, but you've got to sell it to him.
This isn't George Lucas.
Yeah,
but this is your opportunity to take one of the biggest pieces of IP in the entire world and completely fuck with it. Like, this is
on it.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, this is what we want.
I mean, that's how you sell it to Baz. You speak to his ego. You say, Baz, like, you've fucking done it all. Like, you've won Oscars, your films make millions of dollars. You're a fucking genius. You're such a genius that you could probably take what is widely regarded as the worst TV variety show ever made, and you fucking
turn it into something amazing.
Turn it into something. Like, that would speak to him. I reckon he'd see a challenge in that.
Yeah. Hey, Baz.
That and glitter.
Baz.
You can as much glitter as you want.
You ever seen a Wookiee twerk?
Fuck, there would be a twerking with Cardi B would come out.
And twerk.
Doo-wop.
Twerk.
There would be
Wookiee ass pussy.
But what that means is Wookiees have an ass and a pussy. It's like a cloaca. It's the same thing. That's what it refers to.
Yeah. So the Wookiees there at the time displaying their ass pussy, and Cardi B is singing, and she's got like a pointer. She's like pointing at which bit's which. So it's educational too. That's the good news. We get Fred Durst to do I Did It All for the Wookiee.
Yeah, well, we've got to move on. We've got through one. We've been recording for 23 minutes. We've got through one letter.
All right.
Fucking hell. Oh, but that's good. And this is from Alex. Will, I just listened to TOFOP 405. I heard you say that you thought about being a teacher. Do you want to give it a try?
No. basically, here's what I would say is, there's more? Go on.
I teach English at a high school in Adelaide, and next year I'm teaching a group of year 11s about stand-up comedy. The unit of work will end with them having to present their own routine to the class and me giving them a grade on how well they've done. You should come in and help me do it. We could even turn it into a TV show and sell it to the ABC called Over Qual-Will-Fied. Charlie can be the host. I love how I get a little, wet my beak a little. I'm dead serious. Email me back and we can work out the details. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you reckon of that proposal?
No, here's why. I don't do anything with schools. I've had a career-long policy that I don't speak at schools. I don't do anything at schools because I've always had that attitude of because my regular stand-up material isn't appropriate for people who are at schools. I always think
you don't think Wookie ass pussy would fly.
It's my thing's always that, you come and speak at the school and then they see something that you've said somewhere else or some other thing and it becomes an issue and it's like, it's just always too messy. The only time I ever did this, because I actually did do this once, I was in Alaska and I was doing some shows in Alaska and one of the guys who was running the shows, his partner taught at the local school and they were teaching stand-up comedy and they got me to go in and teach all these kids who were probably only about, I would say, 11, 12, 13 years old, like teach them stand-up comedy. And then they got up and they actually did their own stand-up routines and I helped them with them. And it was genuinely one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But I did it in Alaska. It was like I'd run away to another place where the usual laws and jurisdictions didn't apply to do it. But I don't think Adelaide is that place.
This next bit of correspondence is from Damon. Hey, TOFOP, I've recently made a tree change similar to you guys, moving to Margaret River, WA.
Oh, beautiful.
My best mate, Gusto. What do you think of Gusto? Do you think Gusto's name is Gus?
I mean...
Or Gustav? Gusto. If it's Gus, I think Gussie. Do you go to Gusto from Gus?
Gusto.
Unless his surname is
the Gusmeister.
Gusto
name.
Gusto. August. His name's August, I reckon. Okay. And you call him Gusto.
Oh, yeah,
Don't you think?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Or Gust. Mm-hmm. My best mate, Gusto, who's also a TOFOP fan, ventured down to check out the new digs, and coincidentally, a vineyard across the road had an outdoor cinema screening the fabled Top Gun Maverick. We took this as a sign from the TOFOP gods and decided to make a night of it. In a true TOFOP fashion of technical difficulties, the movie started with only the audio sound effects at full blast. No dialogue through the speakers at all. As we had a clear access to the winery and food, it didn't really concern us. And to be honest, between watching the increasingly irate patrons, sound effects, fast-flying planes, and what we know about the storyline from many episodes explaining in great detail, listening to what Tom and Gosling had to say didn't really matter. Having no audio allowed us to unpack what we thought was happening on screen, recanting, would that be recounting? Your in-depth analysis? Because if you're recanting it, you're denying it. Recanting your in-depth analysis.
I'm not sure that you can recant on someone else's behalf, can you? Doesn't the person who's made the allegations in the first place have to recant them? Can you?
I don't think you can, unless it's you've been left you manage the estate, right? You could recant on statements of your dead grandfather, like Gina Reinhardt. Couldn't she recant her father's earlier racist statements or something?
I mean, okay, so they say the definition here says, say that one no longer holds an opinion or a belief, especially one considered heretical. So the example is heretics were burned if they would not recant. But so I think you would have to recant on your own behalf, because otherwise people could just recant for you. They could say, oh yeah, you've recanted. And you'd be like, hang on, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. The audio issues were finally fixed after approximately 1 hour.
Okay.
And we were treated to the bizarre storyline of Gosling following creepily in his dad's footsteps and cheesy mashed together plot lines in full stereo sound. Thank you for the recommendation on the movie and many years of great content from the pod. Damo. Well, I think if there was going to be any film where you didn't really need the sound, it would be Top Gun Maverick. It's all about the pictures, right?
Yeah, mate. All you need is I feel the need for speed. But other than that, you don't need the dialogue.
This is from Thomas. Hey guys, just wanted to drop in and say hi and thank you for the constant stream of entertainment. The other week you began TOFOP with a pitch touch, the staple opener of Ryan Sickler's and Jay Larson's Crab Feast. That's where we did the Remember that?
I do remember that. And I also remember the Crab Feast podcast and them doing that at the start of the podcast.
So what do they do? They just do, is it the intro to the show, or is it just like
it was the regular intro to the show, I believe, and they would both do it together and try to hold it together for as long as they would hold it, I believe.
Right. But what sound are they making? What is like?
I mean, it was a high pitched sort of. It was that same sort of. I think they were doing it on purpose. Clearly, they were extending it out in a way that you were not. You had just mistakenly done it. But yeah, I mean, yes, it was similar, no doubt.
Oh, he's not accusing us of plagiarism.
Nor was I defending us from plagiarism. Okay. Sorry if it came across like that. I was just more like...
I thought you were getting a bit defensive there.
It's like we ripped it off from a show that hasn't existed for 3 years. No.
Okay. So he said, that was my favourite show and my introduction to Will Anderson. And then he says, open brackets, the Sazerac story. My goodness. What is the Sazerac story?
I mean, don't ask me to remember things that I did a long time ago.
Should I Google it? All right. I don't know, because it's a very specific spelling. Oh, no. Sazerac is a cocktail company. Sazerac is a variation of cognac or whiskey cocktail originally from New Orleans. Do you remember telling any story about a Sazerac?
No.
You don't really strike me as a cocktail dude.
Don't really strike me as a Sazerac person. Don't think I've ever said the term Sazerac before.
I think the first time I heard Will explain the name, I knew this was up my alley, and we're approaching a decade of tuning in, which is crazy. The name of Sazerac or the name of TOFOP?
TOFOP.
This is the most confusing fucking email.
It's on brand for us.
I've really enjoyed the switch ups with TOFOP. It's like TOFOP is a band with 2 OG frontmen accounting for a total of 2 band members. So like, I guess, Hall & Oates, right? And thus essentially analogous with being presented with a Lennon or McCartney. Okay. I like this. I said Hall & Oates. He's got a Lennon McCartney.
I appreciate that.
Fucking I'll take that. Analogous to being presented with a Lennon and McCartney session rather than a Beatles hanging. It's still 100% gold. It's funny, actually. I've been listening to quite a bit of Beatles solo stuff lately. A lot of Lennon, McCartney. Well, not when I say that, everyone but Ringo. I've been listening to a lot of everyone but Ringo. And I don't know if this is a controversial statement, but I think George Harrison's solo career, in terms of just consistency, was better than Lennon and McCartney's solo careers. Like the songs that he didn't release as many, so that ups his average, his strike rate a bit more. But All Things Must Pass is a better album than Imagine, a better album than anything that either of those people, in terms of just like rock solid, no flaws. I mean, he basically had 9 years of being in the Beatles to not be able to contribute his best songs to put into that one album.
I think that is why it is so. I mean, I agree with you, and I don't think that's a controversial opinion, by the way. I think that a lot of people, are amazed by the strength of George Harrison's solo stuff. And I think the reason is exactly what you said. He didn't overextend himself, and he had a whole bunch of songs that were just never able to get onto Beatles albums because you had 2 of the greatest songwriters in the history of songwriting. So occasionally you might get a song or 2, but you had all these good ones up your sleeve that you can actually put on your solo album. Whereas by the end, it's fair to say that, Lennon and McCartney both had some real bangers still to come, but, they'd blown out, 20 or 30 of the most iconic songs in the history of songwriting.
Now it's like, what's Yoko doing? Yoko, tell me a funny story. I got to write something. Oh, Yoko. Okay. All right, John, we get it. You've got some specific interests, a bit like this fucking podcast.
This is my new song, I Want to Hold Your Other Hand.
I love how Charlie is now casually analysing situations through the psychological lens of Goose. Anyway, happy holidays from Florida, and thanks again for the laughs. Fucking, how's it going in Florida? What I read over there is it's just kind of like it's a free-for-all. It's like the demilitarized zone in Escape from New York. It's just like fucking whatever goes in Florida, man.
I mean,
have you been to Florida?
I have been to Florida, yes. And
describe it to me. I've never been there. Jem's been there. She did not care for it.
You know what? Some bits of it are really fun, I will say. That's what I like. But there is it's hot and wet. As in like steamy.
Yeah.
When I was there, it was very hot and steamy.
Like a Wookie ass pussy.
Yeah. I would say to people, and they were like, "I'll be like, you'll get that in a few years. You might not get that now, but you wait a couple of years and you'll really find that funny." There is absolutely a conservatism to some of the population there, but like anywhere, this is what I found. Like touring in America was, you would go to somewhere like Salt Lake City, which is essentially full of Mormons, and think, "Who's going to come to the show in Salt Lake City?" Or you would go to Florida and you would think, "This is full of like old conservative people. Who's going to come to this show?" But of course, when you went to the actual show, you were like, "Oh, no, there's like young people here, and there's people who aren't like that here." And in fact, in some ways, the shows you did in those places were even more fun because that community was so starved for that style of like communication that it was actually almost more fun, I think.
Yeah, I remember Jem. She shot a commercial there last year. And it was very hot. She was like in the height of summer, and she said it was like stiflingly hot. She couldn't do a lot. But there was a lot of Art Deco buildings. She went around just walked around the streets and took a lot of photographs of a bunch of like these amazing Art Deco buildings. But I don't know. There's a guy I follow on Instagram, a fitness influencer, I guess. I downloaded his program. He does like calisthenics, like the sort of body weight kind of exercises. And it's one of these things where his program is fantastic. It's really great. But he's such a fucking douchebag. It drives me nuts. Like I feel bad every time I use it. I feel bad every time I've recommended it to people because this dude, he lives in Florida, and like all his videos that he posts are him in Miami. And I think my take on Florida, or Miami specifically, has been tainted by this dude who I hate watch. Like on Instagram, like he does things where like he'll get someone to shoot a video of him like leaving his apartment building shirtless in his jeans, like he's ripped obviously, shirtless in jeans but with his motorcycle helmet on. Then he gets on his motorbike and rides off, and all I can think is, fuck, I hope you have an accident. Like you need some kind of like cosmic punishment for your narcissism.
Well, but the interesting thing is that Miami is its own different thing again, right? Like Miami is, what if the Gold Coast had a budget?
This next bit of mail is from Tim. Dear Will and Charlie, something that you blokes have mentioned that's always interested me is the Mandela effect. I've been blown away so many times whenever I hear a new one. So the Mandela effect is basically like it's sort of like a group delusion that we collectively have decided that, something was the way it was. And I think the Berenstain Bears or something is the famous one.
That's the one that they most often go to. But
or that Shaq was in a movie called Shazam when he wasn't. It was like called Kazam or something.
Okay, this is fun. What I've just found here, Charlie.
Okay.
All right. Now, this is American slanted, so you're going to have to. There might be a couple of things here that you. Actually, fuck. No, maybe we can't do this one because it's pictures. There was a quiz here that was going to be like a Mandela effect quiz,
testing your Mandela effect.
Yeah, but I think that unfortunately,
well, can I do it to you? Can you send me the link and then I can share my screen?
I can have the thing here.
There it is.
Okay,
can you see that?
I can. Yep. Great. Got it.
Okay, so the first question, what color is Uncle Sam's hat? Is it red and white or blue and white, Will?
Red and white.
Wrong.
Oh, really?
Blue and white. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, what is the name of this candy bar? And is it Kit Kat or Kit-Kat?
Oh, Kit hyphen cat.
Kit fuck hyphen cat? Kit hyphen cat?
Kit hyphen cat.
Wrong.
Fuck.
It's Kit Kat, no hyphen.
Oh, Jesus.
All
right.
That's another ad. What does the Target logo look like? Okay. Is it a white-centered target or a red-centered target?
Red-centered target.
All right, you got your first one correct.
Good.
In the Saw movies, what does Jigsaw say? Would you like to play a game? I want to play a game. Do you want to play a game?
Oh,
I mean, is that really
shit.
Mandela effect?
Oh,
That's just
would
like
you like to play a game?
semantics.
I want to play a game. Do you want to play a game? Fuck. The first one, would you like to play a game?
I think that's too polite for a serial killer, isn't it? It's either I want, which is like childlike, or do you want to play a game?
Okay.
I think it's
do you want to play a game?
No, we're both wrong. I want to play a game. We're both Mandela. So this is a very American centric because we've had an Uncle Sam. Now, what does Tony the Tiger's nose look like? And he's the mascot for Frosted Flakes. We don't really have.
Is it all black or blue and black? I don't know. I'm going to guess blue and black just for the sake of this.
Is it Jonah Lomu or is it a cops?
Blue and black.
You're correct. Oh, what the fuck? Okay, what is Henry VIII holding in this famous portrait?
His dick.
His dick. A big red square over
His
it.
big fat hog.
his Wookie ass pussy. Just peeling back those Elizabethan knickerbockers to show a Wookie ass pussy. It's either a glove or a turkey leg.
Who cares? Okay, we can stop
leg.
playing this game. This is like
Really? No, I'm enjoying it.
no.
Does rich Uncle Pennybags in Monopoly wear a monocle?
Yes. Shit, I don't know.
No, he doesn't.
Fucking
What the
hell.
fuck is going on?
Okay.
All right. Okay. That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. Well, Tim basically wanted to know, have we had any Mandela effects that have stumped us lately? I think that counts. Recently, listening to the Weekly Planet, they talk about the movie Uncharted. They were mentioning that what year it came out. I thought it was 4 years ago, but it came out in 2022. I was so blown away. I know it's not Mandela effect, but it gave me the same feeling when I hear one. I think that is just since kind of like the bushfires, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Like time has no meaning.
No
anymore.
meaning.
Or maybe it's pretty much since Trump became president. Like, because the way he affected the news cycle, and there was so much fucking crazy shit coming out like every second day, like some crazy announcement. Oh, Donald Trump said we should blow up the Eiffel Tower. And you're like, oh, fucking what? And then 2 days later, he's like, yeah, he said he's going to punch the moon or something like that. And then it's just like, that's why when I started the show, I said, like, you know, it's a year later. Time has no meaning pretty much since Trump became president, I feel like.
But I think that the pandemic in particular, all those, like, because time is an abstract concept at the best of times, right? But you know, there are the markers of our lives by which we regulate what time is. Like, and it's, you know, going to work, and it's your regular appointments, and it's celebrating people's birthdays or Christmas, or, you know, these style events, and they become the markers of how we measure time. And because so many of those things just went away, I think we're definitely still getting back into that idea. And I would have thought that Uncharted came out at least 2 or 3 years ago. Is there a chance that the makers of Uncharted are gaslighting us, that it came out once and nobody watched it, so they brought it out again in 2022?
I mean, yeah. When did that Jared Leto vampire movie come out? Was that last year or was that like 3 years ago?
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? There is a whole bunch of those kind of generic sort of, they're not sort of, I mean, I guess they're big budget Hollywood films, but they're not the kind of top end that you're like, I have no idea. And also, since streaming's come along, my awareness of release date, because it doesn't seem to fucking matter anymore. Like, you missed Uncharted, wait 2 weeks. You'll be able to buy it somewhere online. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
No.
Like, there's some things I prefer to just watch on my couch like that. Okay, this is from Josh, who's angry. Jesus, you guys could do a little more research before talking about the military.
Shut up.
I live you guys. I'm assuming he means I love you guys.
Yeah,
so I'll
you should
explain.
do a little bit more research before you fucking write us a complaint letter.
Stop saying Air Force. Chair Force, when referring to Top Gun, he's a naval aviator, not a pilot.
Who cares?
Every branch of our military, Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, and Air Force has flyers except for Space Force because it's redundant.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trump. There's no punctuation in any of this, by the way. Not just the Air Force, and every other branch actually makes fun of the Air Force. I don't know if I have the letter say, but I do believe Josh actually emailed a follow-up a little bit later apologise for his rant.
No,
I can understand us driving you mental if you're like a real military dude.
If you're a person who knows that we're just making this same mistake that everybody makes over and over again and we're constantly doing it, then I can get how that would be frustrating to you. However,
but yeah,
I don't really care.
No. Oh, no, that's right. I wrote back to him. I said, mate, we don't do research on anything. Why would we start now? And he said, true, lol. Thanks for the response, Charlie. Although you did do a lot of research on Jay. So that motherfucker got me.
It's true.
Right, we're getting through them, Will. This is exciting. Good. We may have an empty mailbag apart from our Patreon mailbag, which we have to get to at some point. This is from Danielle. Guys, I went down a deep meatloaf hole tonight.
Oh, yeah. That sounds
lucky for some. Eh? Oh, bloody hell. Jesus. Well, I wouldn't give to go down a deep meatloaf hole.
Well, that is actually, a lot of people don't know that, but that is that Meatloaf was talking about in the song I Would Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That. It was going down his deep meatloaf hole.
I feel like you guys could enjoy the bloody roller coaster that is or was a meatloaf. I'm not up to date with your reps due to health issues. Oh, I hope you're feeling better, Danielle. But I hope you haven't discussed it without me already. Listening to Yaz for decades, love your work. Charlie, I hope your bins are intact and Will, your new show is awesome. Thank you. Love, Danny. Well, what's notable about meatloaf? Should we save that for another pod? We're sort of near the end of this one, so we can maybe I can create a rabbit hole. I'll put a pin in
meatloaf because I've got two meatloaf stories so that I am like because I was at the famous AFL Grand Final when Meatloaf performed. I was at that one, not too far from Meatloaf, and I was with my dad, who had a quite interesting review of Meatloaf. So I'm happy to reveal that next time. And then I also once went to a Fatty Vorton promotional thing called the World's Biggest Barbecue when I was at university, where the head
Fatty Vorton is a ex-footballer, now media personality in Australia, and he dubs himself Fatty Vorton. That's not Will.
Oh no, that is a
pejorative.
I'm not even sure what his actual Paul, I believe, Paul Fatty Vorton.
Fatty Vorton.
But he's a famous ex-rugby league player. Was a very good rugby league player, but was also one of the first sports personalities who was in that zone of hosting shows and having a bit of humor, and very beloved character, Fatty. And he did this promotional opportunity with one of the liquor companies, which was called the World's Biggest Barbecue. And Meatloaf was the headlining act. So next time I'm happy for us to go down a meatloaf hole because I have a couple of meatloaf stories.
This is from Jason. Yala, Will and Charlie, proud Wanagjin and I'm going to stuff this up. Awabakal descendant, born, live and work on the lands of the Komburi people and have listened since day one, as well as still calling back to the increasingly obscure walking the room to bemused, or sometimes abused. Well, the abuse was between Greg and Dave. Yeah, it was never on the listeners. Anywho, I found this link to a killer robot with a heart of gold. So this is from the abc.com.au. Your employees will. Anti-poaching robot set to save lives in West Africa. A robot named Gus from Victoria's Gippsland region could become the next weapon deployed against poachers in Africa and has even caught the eye of Australia's Defence Force. Do you want to watch this video? Yeah. It goes for 1 minute and 30 seconds.
I mean, a Gippsland kid done good.
This is all bloody, it's all coming full circle. All right, let me share this with you. Holy shit, by the way, the video of this, if you want a reason to subscribe to the Patreon, do it for this because this thing looks like it's straight out of RoboCop. It just as the voiceover was describing it, we're seeing vision of this tank-like thing.
It's like a tiny camouflage tank, basically.
But it just launched a drone out of its head.
Because up until this point, I wasn't actually that impressed. I was just like, someone's put some camo on an old tank.
On a bin.
on an old ride-on lawnmower.
Yeah, that's what it does look like.
A couple of security cameras up top and a ride-on lawnmower and a bit of grass. And they've called it like a robot. But then suddenly, as I was about to mock it, it's launched a drone.
I mean, that's a great way, though, isn't it, to get the public on side of these military vehicles? Oh, we're using it to stop poachers. Like, who fucking likes poachers? Like, that's something that's the John Wick principle.
We can all agree.
Yeah. You kill an animal, you're a fucking piece of shit.
And then the Australian Army comes in and goes, what if we had a bigger, better version of this that we could use to murder people?
Fucking hell. All right. Last bit of mail, Will. from Tonya. Hey, Will and Charlie, I found TOFOP early in lockdown after getting hooked. Did the thing you said never to do, and I started at the very beginning. Oh, do not do that.
Started at the bottom, now you're here.
Yep, start at the newest episodes, work your way back.
Stop when you get uncomfortable.
Currently, I'm flipping between old episodes and new ones, and you can really tell the quality. For fuck's sake, we have professionals.
It's gone downhill.
Put the show together now. It's great to see where the current content ideas originated from and how your views have differed over the years. I think that is something that we can be proud of on this show. There's some podcasts I listen to and I am, I'm still very fond of, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, like you are the same people that I started listening to 10 years ago. And how have you not had any kind of, how can you be so maverick about this, have not changed your look or your views in such a long period of time? I can't remember if it was TOFOP or Willosophy where Will was giving suggestions of up-and-coming comics to see at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, but I was hoping he could do the same again. I'm also fully aware that I should have asked this 6 months ago to get your timing right for the 2023 festival. No, Tonya, we are on it. Willosophy is very insightful, makes me question more than I have, and TOFOP is such a good laugh, it makes me feel better about my tangent mind. Thank you, Tonya. I think that's a great idea, Will. Is that something that you'd be keen to do maybe as we get close to festivals?
Yeah,
maybe
as we get closer, I will have a look through the program and see who's doing shows, and I will give a whole bunch of people a plug. I'm very happy to do that.
And that's actually maybe not a bad way to use FOFOP over the Comedy Festival period, is maybe you could hook me up with some comedians who maybe want to have a chat and promote their show. I think that would be a good way to use our minimal influence.
Yeah. We use our minimal influence to someone who will actually not think it's minimal. To them, it'll be a lot.
It's not a step down. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's a great idea, Tonya. Yes. Thank you for that. Right. Okay. Well, that is the mailbag empty. I did leave a couple in there, but I feel like they're rabbit hole kind of things. There's stuff that we can dedicate an entire episode around, going down Meatloaf's deep, meaty hole or whatever the saying was. Before we do go, though, I'd like to let people know that you can find all the podcasts at tofop.com. Will and I do this one. We also do another one called FOFOP, which is like this, but Will and I chat to various guests. I think this week, I don't know. It'll be someone good. We only have the best. And Dave Anthony on FOFOP. We also have a podcast, Two Guys, One Cup, which is an Aussie Rules podcast. In fact, I was chatting to our mates at Listener the other day. We are their only AFL-related podcast. They noticed that there was kind of sort of a drop-off when it got to sort of like post-season, and they were concerned that, is this because people aren't liking the show? And then I sort of said, well, I don't know. I think it might – if I look at my own AFL listening habits, I'm not listening to nearly the same amount of AFL podcasts, even though like there's AFL Daily, which comes out each day, literally. I'm not listening to that. So I reassured them that it's not us. It's them. Please don't put the blame on us. But we have a summer series called My Club, which is where I sit down with some famous Aussies and chat to them about the teams that they love and sometimes hate. Hate's a great guest on, very funny show. We've had like legitimate sports journalists on. We've had kind of comedians, the whole range of celebrity Australians. I think you should check it out, even if you don't like football. Often, I think when we had Broden on, we barely even talked about football at all. Will, what would you like to play?
I have a book. It is called I Am Not Fine, Thanks. You can find that at all the places that you find books. I have a tour. It is called Willuminate. And what I will say about that is there may be some changes to some of the dates, but at the moment, if you go to comedy.com.au, you'll be able to see where I am for those shows all over Australia. And there may be even some what you're talking about, Will, shows still happening either in Sydney or Brunswick Heads when people hear this. So check at the Brunswick Picture House or the Sydney Comedy Store to see if I am doing any shows in those places. My special Willogical from last year is available for free on ABC iView, so you can go and check it out there.
Also, plug the Patreon, TOFOP, patreon.com/TOFOP. Heaps of great bonus content in there. Also, full videos of the show, if that's what you want. Also, ad-free episodes, if that's what you want. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month. I know, look, we have corporate backing now and stuff like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're making any money yet.
It doesn't.
It just means that we have people going out to sell the show for us. Whether or not we actually get any sponsors is yet to be seen.
Yeah, so if you want to sign up to the Patreon, and if you are one of the people who's still signed up to the Philosophy Patreon, I should mention that the Nish Kumar and Virdas episodes that I did live at the Sydney Opera House are posted on the Patreon page. I know that Sam Peterson, who was on TOFOP a few weeks ago, he's listened to them both. He may be the only person. I don't know how many people are checking the Philosophy Patreon page, but if you are still signed up to that, both those episodes are up there.
And finally, we have a YouTube channel, so you can get highlights from each week's show on the YouTube channel. The numbers are going up. I've been actually impressed. It seems like there's a lot of, I think Liver King kicked us off. We put up a post about Liver King a couple of weeks ago, and that seemed to be our highest viewed video so far. So go to TOFOP TV on YouTube, subscribe, and you'll get new updates every week from the world of TOFOP. And also, we have a newsletter as well. So if you really want to stay in contact with what's happening, you go to tofop.com and sign up for our newsletter at the bottom of the page. Weekly updates, weekly roundups of what's been going on in TOFOP. That's it. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
Everyone relax! Fucking stupid.
Listener.